and good evening here at Depot. My name is Jona Moro, and I'm very happy that so many of you found your way here today. Thank you, Lili Litschka, for organizing this lecture today, and of course also the Institute of Landscape Architecture. It's already been a great cooperation the last months, and we're looking forward to this series. Also, a very warm welcome to you, Daniel Baur. We are happy you're here today. Also, very welcome to everyone who's watching via live stream. Regarding this, we also have just a quick announcement. You won't be seen on the live stream as an audience, but if you also don't want to be heard, then just please refuse the microphone that's going to be offered to you. Then we will just hear it in the room. And maybe one of you can just repeat the question so that the audience in the live stream knows what we're talking about. Yes, so far from me. Thank you very much for coming and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased you're here, and also hello to the people watching via live stream as well. We have been organizing this lecture series. My name is Lili Litschka. I always forget that. And I'm at the Institute of Landscape Architecture at the University of Life Sciences, BOKU, Vienna. And we've been organizing this lecture series for many years now, and I'm very happy that Daniel Baur is here tonight. And this year is organized around the topic of reuse, recycle, and reinterpretation of landscapes and open spaces. Daniel will go beyond that, but you will hear that later on. This is, of course, a topic which isn't new at all. It has been here for decades, but it is interpreted in a different way right now. One thing, there are still 2 seats here in the front if you would like to sit. Sorry. And so I think it's very crucial to think about this scarcity of resources, about sustainability, but also about the way you can find designs and create spaces which have an additional meaning beyond this recycle of materials. I would like to introduce tonight, first of all I have to say thank you to the ones who are part of this organization. It's a lot of people adding to this event, of course. We have a lecture series of 4 evenings, of which this one is the 3rd this autumn. And it's a collaboration between our institute and the Austrian Association of Landscape Architecture, ÖGLA. It has been like that from the beginning, and it's been a very fruitful collaboration. And also there is the Ministry of Kunst, Kultur, Öffentlicher Dienst und Sport, I don't know the English name for that, who sponsors some of the money for that. And of course, I would also like to mention that there's one more evening next Thursday, right after this one, and it will be Madeleine Acarin next week from Wagon Landscaping from Paris, and I'm sure this will also be an interesting lecture. But now it's for Daniel Baur, and I would like to introduce him briefly, so you know the ones who don't know him, because I think he's quite a well-known figure in landscape architecture in Vienna, not least because you're part of my lecture at the university, but still. Daniel has been trained as a landscape gardener, and he graduated in Switzerland from Rapperswil in 2004 as a landscape architect, after which he worked in practice as a landscape gardener and at creating, I think, also open spaces and streetscapes by hand. He then went to the United States to work with Peter Walker from 2005 and 2008, and also for the office of CMG, where he encountered the urbanistic approach from a social sustainable side, and interpretation. In 2008, he founded Bryum, landscape architecture, which has grown since then to a larger office of 25 employees, who are not only landscape architects, which is an important information. It's a very mixed team of architects, landscape architects, ecologists, sociologists, environmental engineers, urbanists, and a few others. And he's been a lecturer for landscape architecture and urban design at the University of Applied Sciences in Bern since 2017, and in 2022 he founded and established the architecture studio Resource-Based Design at the very same university. I'm very glad you made it here. I know it's been a strenuous travel. I hope you will relax enough to get through this evening. And I give you the microphone. The floor is yours.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Are you good? Yeah? Okay, let's have a look at in an hour. Oh, I need this clicky. I need to click. Can I get the click thing? I like to talk about the designing with future factors. And I don't know how you are, but I'm rid of this topic of sustainability. Who of you are rid as well of it? Yes, thank you. And the reason is because we always talk about sustainability and somehow we're in this cage of our possibilities, and somehow it's frustrating, and it's also kind of weird because the decisions we have to do, they become irrational, and we have to decide things we really don't understand anymore. And this was the reason why I said I want to understand more what actually the question in our profession is, and I will take you on this path which I am on since some years. Most of the people, they think we need to protect the climate, but I can tell you the climate has no issue. We have an issue with the climate. So this is something I don't talk about anymore. We don't have to protect the climate. We have to talk about our future ability. This is the only question. What I also see when students come to me, and also when I talk to other universities, somehow there's a mistake by teaching. Often we get taught in mitigation and regeneration. Often not even for regeneration. We just talk about what we should do for that we can save our climate. I think we need to talk about the future ability. And this is the topic I'm interested in. So what do we need that we can have a good life in our social structure, in our democratic system? And this is the question we need to solve. So I guess you know all the goals we have in sustainability? You know? You already heard about it. Okay. So then it's nothing new for you. But I will tell it again. So the goal for 2030 is, the aim is to reduce annual greenhouse gas emissions till 2030 by at least 48. I don't know 48. This is in Austria, 48. In Switzerland, it's 50, but probably you have a little saving. Okay, so Austrian is special compared to the level of 1990. So you know this goal, do you? What does this mean? What did change in your life since you know this goal? Do you have an idea?
Oh my God. Yeah, I bought less stuff for myself.
And that helps. Oh, you don't know. Does somebody know what this means? Really? No. Okay, we can switch.
There's like the hand in the middle of the screen.
Ah. No hands. put no hands to this goes. Okay. So this is something that...
I want it back.
With hand. Okay, no hands here anymore. And even less we understand the goal, what we have for 2050. And that's something, when we formulate goals and we have no idea what we do, then we definitely should change something. We can change the goals, or we can get on the path to figure out what we really have to do and where is an impact that we can really solve or adjust the goals. The first way, I try to figure out what's the cultural background, why we don't understand what we have to do. And I found it in the culture of building. We all love to build, do we? Yeah, we love. No, yeah, he's the man with the hand. So look at this. Do you know Otto Wagner? Yeah, you know this crazy guy. Look at this glassy bathtub. You Austrians, you're crazy designers. So around 1873, there was a huge cholera in Vienna, and they realized with the time, they figured out we have a hygienic problem, and the IT to solve this problem was to build baths, to build bathtubs, these rooms, and this was an intervention. And also architecture came and figured out how can you integrate this to our constructed life, and we could solve this issue. We don't have cholera anymore. The next thing, some years later, we had the issue after the war that our culture, we were on the earth, we had nothing, had no money, no food, and then we realized, and this is an image from Basel, the pharma concerns, they build up some industrial sites, and we learned that when we build huge buildings and that generates work, and because we can work there, we can get an economical miracle. We could raise our prosperity. So we learned that building helps us to get somewhere. And then just lately, I guess you know this is also in Switzerland. It's not just happening in Vienna. I just read in the newspaper in Zug that when we build many housing, we can solve all the issues we have for people they need an apartment. And on the end of this article, the journalist, he said, yeah, probably it's not really equality, but we could solve this problem. So we build up the solutions for our problems. This is culture, and this is where we're coming out, and all the universities are built out of this thought. And even more a problem is, I guess you have also pension I hope for you. Because we have some issues with stocks, many of the pensions, they invest in buildings. So we save actually by building buildings our prosperity in our old ages. So we need those. In Switzerland, it's more than a third of the money is saved by building things, and they have to build every year a third of the money that they can keep the safety for the old people, the money. And then we learned last year that when you build barbed wires along the borders, you can solve the issue with the immigrants. And Mr. Trump said this also. You still believe it? And it shows really that we have no other solutions, or it's heavy for us to find other solutions than to build things. And here, my favorite one, you know this one? Direct air. Huh? This is the great solution. So you can decide if you want to live in a big apartment, you need just one model. When you want to fly to your vacation, probably you need to buy another one. So this machine catches the carbon out of the air and brings it to somewhere. Don't ask me where, to the sea or somewhere. So we learned that we don't have to change things. We just build this direct air machine, and then everything is good. We have a cultural problem. We do not have a problem that we don't know how to do it. We have a problem that we have a way to find a solution by building things, and now we learn that to build leads to is nothing that leads to something good. It leads to a problem. So we learned that it became that to build causes. And what that means, this is the big issue. We feel enabled. When we have a problem and we can do things, we feel enabled to react. So what I learned from this is that we need to find solution for society and not just for building things. We need to see it holistically and not just by designing with a new label and everything looks shabby chic with reuse. I really hate shabby chic, sorry. Shabby chic is not cool. Because we have a culture of aesthetics. This is part of architecture. This is part of our talents. And I think we need to see the whole process. And this leads me, what's the challenge? And I guess most of you, you work in an office or studying architecture, landscape architecture. And sorry, it's 2 minutes, it's going to be dry, really dry. But it's important to talk about this. So let me talk about the level of sustainability and the level of how buildings can be really helpful for what we need to do. The lowest level are the method of efficiency, the design methods. I talk about design methods because this is the base of our working. We often forget that we build not just buildings, we actually design the design process. This is the first thing we do. And what we realize is that many of the architects, they are still, and landscape architects, they are still in the thinking of efficiency and the method of willing. The next level are these label things. Who knows all the labels? Who likes labels? You're very welcome. I don't like labels because labels, they give us the feeling that's good what we are doing. But if you have a look at from where these labels are coming from, they are from the industry who actually is doing all these construction things. So it's a legitimation of what we are doing. I don't say it's wrong. I just say it's not enough, probably. And and then we are in the situation right now that this reuse becomes like modern. We think it's cool. We can reuse a door, or even worse, a window. It's the worst thing you can reuse. Actually, the windows. It's really doesn't make any sense. But I will talk later on about this. And then when we rise up and say, okay, when we really want to work sustainably in our profession, we need to work in these cycles. And this is not that easy, and I will show after it some projects we did in this thought of circularity. And this means that we really design a new design process with all funny things, what that happened. And the heaven of sustainability is the architecture of non-building, and I have no idea how that should work, because I'm not really a fan to say that we should stop building things. Then we need actually the possibility that we can react to question of our society. And that needs the situation that we can change things. So I'm from the side that I think we need design methods that can work in the circularity and that we still can do our job in a way that we have a future ability. From the research-wise, we success that the goals we have heard in the beginning, it's when you do the method of labeling, we're going to be good. We can reach the goals. But the research society, they say actually we can reach the goals at first when we are up there. Interesting is that the most of the architects and planning office, they are actually here. And that causes the situation that I found. I'm interested in that part. I'm interested at the university and also at our office to figure out how can we build in this circularity. And this means resource-based designing. And I bring you now to the project. You survived the driving, is still okay? You didn't sleep? Not yet. Okay, you're still okay. So I want to talk about Bryum Cosmos. Bryum Cosmos, this is an energy supplier, and they changed the brand from EWB, which is not that sexy, to Bryum Energy, which is the Bryum. And this is the headquarter, you can see. And somehow they asked us to be part of the designing team who brings this industrial side to a headquarter feeling. And the first thing is what I read is what they wrote about their sustainability. And they found all the great words, really. Reuse, recycle, repair, decarbonation. Really, it's, I don't know, probably KI, they spilled out what the words they need, that everybody thinks they're sustainable. And we as a team, we said, you know, okay, we're going to do it that way. And they were quite happy. They found this is cool. And a half a year later, there was another feeling, and I will tell you why. So this is kind of the way how this site looked like. A lot of asphalt. We had to support 40 tons trucks to there. We have really, it's an industrial site, so it has to fit to the conditions of an industrial site. And the first thing what we did is in a meeting when we started with the project, we said, look at these are the values we follow on. So we said we want to have a climate positive design. We just work with reused elements, 100% also the foundation. We use material appropriate to their life cycle. This sounds also cool. Using material that is available in the moment of construction. Okay, no fun anymore. Sponge city principle and waste-free construction site. This is the funniest one. Huh? So we came up with this, and everybody was like, yeah, cool, we are so sustainable. And you know what was the issue? When you work with waste, by law, reuse is waste. The first meeting we had with the Verwaltungsrat, I told them that they have to deduct, abschreiben, the whole amount by 1 year. Usually, when you create a house or a landscape, you have a time around 66 years in Switzerland where you deduct it by taxes. And because it's waste, you can't activate this money. So they lose in the Buchhaltung, in one moment, the whole amount of the money. And that was the moment where the FCO became quite green in his face, because he said, you know, we don't want to have this. And I said, this is part of to be innovative right now. And we found solutions, and we have almost with every sentence, we have feelings like this. Also, for example, we came up and said, okay, all the norms we have to quit. And they said, why? I said, because when we have the foundation, when we need gravel, which is not with a certificate, we just take it out from somewhere else and bring it here, we don't know if that's really 100% the standards. And they had to commit to that we build up without norms and standards, which was quite a heuristic question. So let me go in. The easy thing is, and that's the design process where we are in, and all of us probably know, this the resource-independent design process. You know, this is a squiggle from Damien Newman. I really love it. You started the project, you have ideas, and you design it, and you figure out solutions, but the whole way you are working on the object. It always gets more precise. Huh? You're starting, you're designing, and you design the object. This just works because on the end, you can fit all the resources to your design. If you have to fit the resources, you're screwed up with this design process. Sorry. So when we design resource independent, the design is the object and the creation is the design process. This is important. This is important that you understand this, because when you design resource dependent, the resource is the limitation of what you can do. So you're actually designing the rules how the resources come together because you don't know the resources in the moment where you're planning. You are not designing the objects. So the design are the parameters to lead to the objects and not the objects by itself. Are you still with me? Yeah, good. So and the creation is the linked system. The interesting thing was also, how can you get the permission for this project? How do you think? We go to the permit department and say, probably it's like this. It could be gravel. It could be also slabs, yeah? The drainage, probably it's a linear drainage. Probably it's punctual, we don't know yet. We don't know the material right now, but we need the permission, otherwise we can't get on. All these questions we had to solve, and we were in the process with the departments for permission to figure out how can we save quality. And this project actually started with the question how to set up rules. And what we did here is, in the beginning, we didn't design the plaza, we designed the rules and we simulated it. And this was very important for us to understand what's the aesthetic. It's not just shabby chic, we arranged this, we created rules that could work with the conditions of unknown things. So we didn't know how much stones we have, we didn't know which kind of stones, so we set up rules. I can show you this on this plan. This was the little plaza. And we decide that one rule is that we think in linear lines. Why do we think in lines? Because that was a helpful, an easier thing to figure out if you have just one dimension to go on with different types of materials and amounts of material. And we said we always want to use, when we get 200 square meters of stones, we take 200 square meters. We don't take 150 that it fits to our design. We take everything, otherwise we have waste again. And we said no waste on construction. So we had to figure out where the parameters who are fixed and where are the parameters who can grow. And as you can see, we defined how it grows, and also with the trees, what are we doing when material fits to each other. So where the trees, they become like a in-between situation and the buffer. And so we started to design things, and this was also interesting with the construction company, because when they started, we said, we start with these rules and we have to work together, because on the end, the plan looks totally different. So the first material came, and our construction manager, he was quite screwed up, because he had to work totally differently. Usually you have to plan and you're controlling, you're a manager. But when you work with resource-based design, this is a teamwork. And what we learned is that it's a great experience when you work with these people from construction on the same eye level, because when they had to find some gravel for the foundation, they walked through the area and looked to other construction sites, to their dumpers, and they said, this dumper comes to my construction. So they had to go there and look at the material together with the foreman and the construction manager to find where's the right material. And this creates a totally different symbiosis of working, so the designers and the construction becomes one. And the quality was great. because the people from the construction people, they want to show that they can do it good. And we were not anymore the controllers, we were the team partners. This was a really nice experience. So all kind of crappy material came on sometimes. And on the end, we could do it by 100% of reuse. 70% was really reuse, just in time. So that means somebody else, it was demolished and came to our construction site in the same time. There was not a depot somewhere. They really demolished it. Next day was here, and in the next 2 weeks it was built. So 70% is the reuse, 100%. Then we had a lot of remnant materials, and we were shocked how much materials is remnant. Or like if you build things and you have like 20 slabs too much, it also goes to the dump. And we bought this and used it, and 5% was complaint materials because there was a notch on, and we said, it can't be that we dump this material just because there's a notch on. And what's also important when I talk about rules, it's not just about designing rules, also from where the materials are. We said that we actually want to have the most of the material in between of 10 square kilometers radius. And we actually kind of found, like on the end, it's almost it's 90% of the material came in between of 10 kilometers. And 10% was out of the kilometers. That was the question of technical elements. So I'm going to show you what's the images, and I think it's important to talk then later on, is this good quality or aesthetically, or is it just a bunch of material put together? I think this is an important discussion. You can see here the rules. It's done really by line, and always with no waste. And also, the trees are not reused. Actually, this was also funny. This was an old parking lot. And it was also funny to see that the construction managers, who are usually not the designers, they came to high-level performance by designing, because they found, this is, and now I'm also part of the design process, and it's really this way. You become part of the design process on construction. I think this is an interesting thought, also for the people who really want to be on the whole process involved. And what's also funny, that this plaza becomes very lively, because the scale, the site is that huge, and the scale become lively because people like to be there. It's a slow scale, and the materials are different. Somehow they really liked it. I think today I wouldn't do it the same way, but it was the first construction we did it that way. And I'm glad to talk later on about this, because it's the mixture is probably too much. Somehow people like it, but we have to go further on. Okay, next. So when we published this, everybody was saying, on landscape it's easy, it's 2D, landscape is flat. And because I'm in this split that I'm teaching in architecture and having a landscape architecture office, I said we need to invent this also for architecture, and we need to figure out how this process also works for architecture. And I will bring you this, I want to show how we do it, and also some results about reuse in architecture. So it all began with this concern here in Basel who likes to demolish a huge amount of buildings. And they study it, can they reuse it or transform it, and they figured out it's somehow about the Tragwerk, it's not possible about the construction and the structure. And I was part in the discussion, and I said, that's perfect to figure out how can you bring these buildings back to the circularity. And we started that we looked for different ideas where we could intervene in the neighborhood. And we found some partners. They were interested that we can test this with students. And we came up with a thesis. We said, because on the beginning, the Rush, they came up and said, you know, we are doing a catalog with everything, like with the floors, the doors, and you can go and it's like a mall. And we said, you know, forget it. When you want to get rid of this building, then you need years that you can bring everything back to the circularity. So what we said as a university, we said, you need to create construction sets out of it. So not the only pieces, you need to bring in to say, like, you can create out of these buildings 7 kindergartens, housings, and then people take the whole house or take the whole kindergarten. Otherwise, you can't solve this question with that huge buildings. The Roche, they said they are totally with us and they want to check this, and then we set up rules. And I think this is very important rules when you work in a resource-dependent designing process. And the first thing is that when you use material, you should use it in the same function again. That's the most best moment way how you can use it. The second thing is that you shouldn't adapt things, so no waste. We don't want to cut things. If you have steel bar, use it as it is. The only thing what you can do is a structural addition when you need a flange to bring it together. And, and of course, students liked huge elements to transport, but we said, you know, on the end, it needs to be in small pieces that you really can do it easily. So this is a rule that is in the max 5 tons. And and what we also told to the students is that we need to understand when we have a resource and a new building, how do you deduct it out of the resource and bring it to the new site in your new design, and the waste you create by taking out of a building, this is part of the design of the new building. So you need to find also a waste, a product or a use in your design for the waste. So the organization that you can do like a research designing studio, you need a lot of people. And we had this super situation, and I can really say this is something I think every university should work more with private people. So we found engineers. They were part of our studio. They came. They did coachings. They brought their knowledge. We had companies like Erne, that they were from the people who actually is doing things like this, like demolition. And with this huge team, we could do research and education in the same time. This was really helpful, and we still do it that way. And the resource, we were there with the students, and we looked at all the buildings, and all the material, and all the layers of a building, and of course also the architecture. Because often when I hear about reuse, I don't feel that people really think also about the design and the aesthetics. They just talk about bricolage. And this is not really what futurability means with reuse. So the students really get into the building, try to understand why things are why they are, and what's the future of the elements. And Roche, they were already in the stage that they had a catalog with all the elements, and this is easy. And our research team, they said, you know, often we don't have this catalog already. And we found a way, I just want to tell you this, that you can also use it, with Matterport. You know this Matterport? No. This is like easy way, how can you create your own street view for a building, for example. So this to take off this building were 2 students have an afternoon. They walk through this building with a camera, and this camera is that precise that it takes the whole thing by image in 3D. And the cool thing is, it's really stupidly easy. Even I can do it. So, that you can measure after it on the internet. So you put in these 3D models to internet and you can go and measure things. So you don't have to create a catalog in the beginning. You really can just take it out. You can take it with this visual situation, and then you can see it's very precise. It's 1 meter 05, and you can measure. Everybody can measure on later on what the elements are, and this is important. Then, when we talk about design method, it's all about learning. To resource-based designing is all about learning. So the 2/3 of the process, you don't work on a project. You don't work what you on the end you want to see. You're learning. And you learn actually in the beginning about the elements, which kind of elements do you have, what are the phenomena you can create out of these elements. We talk about the structure, possibility, and the programming, because structure and programming is also connected. This is in landscape as well, in the architecture that way. And then on the end, you talk about the solids. How can you feel solids? And this is on the end a system that comes together. And in the last third time, you're generating actually your project out of the parameters. So the designing is actually really in this phase and not in the generating phase. So in the first thing, as I said, we designed with the students' parameters and created out of these parameters spaces. We checked out the aesthetics of the quality of spaces. We checked out the room program, can they fit in? In the second phase, we checked how these solids fits to this structure, and we had to learn also that some structures had to be changed. So this is a very iterative process. It's not really, if you have already in the phase 1 an idea of the final building, you're screwed up with the second phase. So you have to be very iterative and to learn things. And this is something students in the beginning, they struggled it because they want to create a product and not to create a learning curve. I want to show you, before I go back to landscape, some projects that to show also that this is nothing to do with shabby chic. The project from Rebecca Bernhardt, I show really the process. We gave them the work that on the beginning they should create out of images they took an atmospheric translation to the work they have to do, to the project what they have to do. So it was industrial site, and they had to invent 2-story buildings for living. So she started to figure out what's the atmosphere of the material. The first thing was not a technical question. It was really how can we get design, how we get atmospheric with this material. This is very important. The second thing she started to learn was that she decided which kind of material she would want to use for structure, and she started with this material, and she did learnings. She looked at when you fit these elements together, what kind of different spaces you can generate, and what are the aesthetics and the quality of these spaces. Then she set up rules. She figured out which kind of structure give me the space to react later on, and she created a huge learning curve and figured out on the end what kind of structure that will be resistant. And then she started to figure out which kind of solid with axis dimensions could work with it, and the whole process was really just learning. With canisters, with pet grids. She kind of did many different things. And on the end, she generated a building out of it, which works exactly with the beams they had in the right length, with the windows dimensions. And as you can see, the whole design is based out on this, on the resource she had. And I was quite happy to see this, because the design process, out of the design process, there were really interesting phenomena of space she would never had if she would just design by herself. What was also interesting, the engineers, the external experts, they counted what this means. Usually, as I said, I'm not that much interested in numbers, but it was interesting. They really checked the project from Rebecca in a way, is it really working, structural-wise? Is it engineering working? It's not just a student idea of working. And how much carbon dioxide it's expanded by square meter Energiebezugsfläche per year. And you can see, if she would do this project with new elements, it's around 16.18 kilograms carbon dioxide. And if, because she worked with reuse, it's almost was a third of it. And when we think back to the question in the beginning, what does this mean 2030? Half of the emissions from 1990, then we get some solution that when we do in this design process, when we change the design process, we are able to reach these goals. This was something we really learned, that we need to change not what we are building, we need to change the way how we design it. Some visuals. I really like this project because it shows it's architecture, it's not just bricolage, some things. I just flipped through other projects, I don't explain this too much. I just want to show that to change the design projects brings back also architecture quality, aesthetic quality, and not just a new sustainable object. She actually worked with construction of concrete. She used all concrete situation because in Switzerland 70% of the built buildings are out of concrete, so we need solution for concrete. And she found some solution, structural solution. How can she use these beams? And as you can see here, this she had to do a kindergarten. The space become very interesting also for kids, for the level eye level of kids. The resource-based design brought her to a very special way how she could activate or create a space for kids. I think also this was an interesting process and worked also 100% with reused material. Celio, he had also to do a kindergarten, and he also tried to really figure out cool rules to create structural, and he found quite difficult one, but it works also without changing the elements. And created a two-story kindergarten, which I really also like, and also the people we had in the last review, we had the kindergarten professions, and they all really loved these designs because they thought it's really out of the atmosphere, and it was really nice for them to see those. And the last project was very technical. He used slabs, ceilings and slabs, and he created out a whole building out of concrete, also 100% reuse, including insulation, wind papier, everything by 100% reuse. And also, also this project, I think it's quite nice and fits very well to the situation where they have to put it in, and it's a house for living. It's somehow, that was not me. Somebody want to go to, I just go back. Yeah. Are you done? You want to go to Apero, I guess, huh? No, okay. So next project. It's a landscape project. On the beginning, everybody said, you know, it was interesting. This plaza is small, but it's small. It's, you know, it's almost an art piece, and we have a contract for the city of Bern to build up a new city access, quite a long one, an important one. And we came up and told them also, let's do it in 100% reuse, and the city access is very important that you have qualities to it, because many people is gonna use this access. So there are many functions. We have firefighters, we have police, we have tons of people, we have bikes, we have people barrierefrei. So it's quite a huge amount of things we need to solve. And this is the space how it looks like today. It's a parking lot, basically a street and parking lot. And the master planning says that the left and the right hand side of this bridge becomes a huge amount of housings, more than thousands of apartments. It's a huge dimension of development. And this axis underneath the bridge become the new city axis of Bern. So that's the vision. And in the early beginning, we came up with a design for it, and we also said it needs an identity, it needs a branding, and this space is quite a heavy space underneath a bridge. It's not just cool, it's also dark, and it's cool, or cold. So it's not really nice. And the interesting thing is, happens by accident, we won a competition right next to this axis about open space, and this building here is a swimming pool. It's a public pool, and it has to be demolished. And we said, we want to build our landscape out of this building. It's just right next to the axis, and let's do it. And the city of Bern, on the beginning also, they said, this is a cool idea, we're going to be progressive. They had no idea what they're doing. Me neither. So some images of the building. And we figure out, and in this phasing, we are testing things, that we actually can really do all the landscape out of this material. And we need some extra because it's really a huge landscape. But we can use a huge amount of it. What we learned in this process is that we need to define, as you said, a new permission process. And also we need to find a way how we can communicate quality, because we don't know yet how it looks like on the end. And of course, the city of Bern, the council, they want to say yes to a project. They want to have a rendering. When we come up and say, it could be this way or this way, they are afraid this is political, not working on. And what we learned is that we need to work with images. So we visualize different possibilities. And for that, I don't know, do you know Grasshopper? Good. This is a huge help in this moment, because there you can parameterize the design, and this helps a lot for the designing process. You can change it very easily, and we believe that in the future we connect the whole construction documents to the design process of the parameters. So this is one process. It's not anymore designing for project, BDP, DD, and construction documents. It's going to be one thing, this learning circle, and on the end you're building by click. We are not there yet, but we are coming close. The other thing is that when you work with the authority, we have an issue with submission, because there are some millions what's the costs for this building, for the landscape, and somehow you have the rules of submission. And how can you submit something you don't know? So you basically can ask for labor, but you don't know the price on the end. And this is a process we are still in. And I think it shows, I don't want to show that there are too many problems. I want to say that we have to change the way how we design, and we have to change the process how we get from the idea to the build situation. These are the two things we need to change, and that needs many young people and old people. They try really get into these topics and figure out their own way. And what is cool right now, the climate in the society is open. We have really open doors to change things. So in the end, we hope it's going to look like this. If you are interested, you can follow this project on the internet. It's called Hallo Viaduct. I don't know why it's Hallo Viaduct, but some designers figured this out. it's on the internet and it's also visualized in many things. Okay, now we go beyond. And this is more for this discussion also. Reuse soil. Who has knowledge about soil? Hey, great. It's good. Soil is very important. When we talk from climate, the soil is the buffer, is almost the most important element to solve our climate issues and future ability in the space, because soil can a lot. And we have a contract that we create in a situation where they had buildings, a park. And that means you turn down the construction situation and then somehow you need to get soil from somewhere. So that means that you have to destroy cultural landscape or agricultural landscape that we can build a little, oh, it's not a little, it's around 70,000 square meter park, that we need to destroy landscape that we can build up a park. And this is a no-go for us. So we came up and said, we want to figure out how can you transform the buildings to soil. What's the issue? Is that a good idea? No? Why not?
I think so. There is a lot of plastics and chemicals in buildings, and also there's no. It takes years to build up soil, life, and the right chemical composition.
So what happens to this substrate you can buy? The substrate. If you right now in the city, they all swear on these substrates. What happened to those? Mm. Oh, it depends by the building. Ah, now you're on my page. Exactly, we did the same progress as you did right now. We just took longer. No, and we came up. We looked at which kind of substance we need for this soil, and how can we figure out this, find this in the buildings. And we convinced the developer that we said we do the research, and this is a good story, and it's not just a good story, it could also be a pilot for the future, because soil is not growing, as you said, it takes a long time to get together. So it's an irreversible source, and if we find a way to create soil, this is a good thing. We said we're going to take out the material out of the building, and we create the soil, and we design the process, how we get the material to the size and the structure we need for soil, and then we test it. So the first thing is we took it out. As we said, we really looked at the material. Is it dirty? Is it similar? Does it work? And we took glass, we took bricks, we took wood, and of course we have to manipulate it to the way, to the grain as we want, to the curve that we need for a good soil. And we worked together with 2 universities, with ETH and the OST, and our office, and we created 3 types of soil out of these buildings. And since more than half a year, we have this Versuchsanlage on this lab in use as a pilot. We have plants there, and this is 100%, all what you can see in this edge is 100% of this building. We created coal out of wood, and used this coal to activate the soil. And we also measured all the chemicals, as you said, because we know there are chemicals in, and check it out with all the norms and how can we use it. And we were quite happy to see that the plants grows well, the structure works, and we are doing processing this, and it shows that it's really a possibility to do this. But now we have a huge issue. And what's the issue? Don't forget, we work with waste. We fight it for years that there's no waste mixed up anymore. Huh? We are all recycling kids, aren't we? Pet to pet, plastic to plastic. We all learned this. And the whole law situation, said, you cannot mix any waste material anymore. And now, this is a huge bundle of waste mix. Huh? And the authority said, no, good idea, but don't do it. Huh? Don't do it, please. And we said, you know why it works, and we see that we can reach the goals. And they said, you know, and the idea we totally understand, but it's a different culture. We come from a different culture, and we learn that we want to change things. That's really, it's a hard cultural break. And this needs a lot of change also in our planning. We need to start that we are piloting things. We need to do research in our designing process. In our office, we have quite a lot of projects now where we, beside the regular project, we start with a little research. And I think it's important for also the future design, the future ability, that we are researching in our work. Everybody of us, we need to research to figure out the new factors for our future ability. You still with me? Okay, no beer? No, okay. Soon, okay, soon. It's beer soon. Let me come to 2 points I think we need to change in our process. The thing is competition. Can you do a reuse, a resource-based competition? What do you want to charge in the end? A funny parametric grasshopper tool? Usually, we judge images. We don't judge functions. And I'm in a commission where we're analyzing the sustainability of competitions and the buildings and landscapes. And I want to take you in this issue and also give you some solution. How could we solve the question of competition in a sustainable context? Usually you have like a slot where you want to develop a building landscape, and then then the framework comes to it that you say, I want to build a building with 3 stories or whatever. So the rules and the goals. And now, when you see the specs of the competitions, you see tons of good listening sentence for sustainability. Biodiversity, something weird like facade green stuff. All these quick wins. I call it those quick wins. So this is the base, and then in a jury you have this meeting for the specs, and then something funny happens. You're creating down, the huge idea of sustainability comes down to the sentence like, build up some ecological hedges. 20 square meter. You know this, on competition, on the end you have to fill out Trockenrasen and a little bit something for Eidaxli, and everything is good. Innovation, okay. And then the teams start to work, and then they work out of these buildings, and what you realize as a jury, and in the research of in the analysis of the results, that the sustainability of the project are always similar. The difference is so small. And we said, even the competition is on the title is Sustainable Kindergarten. On the end, it's the same. Every project has the same quality of sustainability. And the thing is, in this moment, when we translate the whole question of sustainability to some sentence like 20 square meter of hedges, that we kill the innovation. I always say, when you do this, it's like that you bring the whole question of sustainability to Dr. Oetker's Backmischung. Do you know Dr. Oetker? It's great. You can cook it every time, and it tastes the same. It tastes the same. So what we're doing, we don't say, just I want to smell chocolate. No, in these programs, in these specs, we say, use this chocolate and 20 square meter of it, and then it's good. And this is the killing of innovation. We should stop do our specs like this. the innovation of sustainable development is the thinking of designing in a holistic way. As I said, we need to change the designing process, and we don't have to change the design, the objects. We need to change the designing process. And in competitions, this is a huge topic, and we really found a way, also with the SCR, that we can found programs that we can go on and process. What we say, we are just telling the profile and their requirements. We don't say how they should do it. We don't say, give us 20 apartments with 80 square meters. We don't say. We tell them how people should live in this apartment, on this flat. We don't say the quality, and we don't say the quantity. We just say what the narrative is. And then the second thing we gave with is how much carbon dioxide they can use to construct a building per person. So we say the person, the carbon dioxide, and the narrative. Interesting is, we just checked this with students, the innovation grade is huge. But the problem is that the juries, they don't know how to judge this. Because right now you can say, you know, all these quantity things, they have ticks. In the Vorprüfung, they went through and say, you know, they are all good. Now, the teams come up with systems. They come up with solutions, how that living could be, how they could save space, how they could reduce facade. And this needs a lot of more thinking for a jury, and we need really to understand the intention of the project and not the looking of the project. So that changed the things, and we are still on this process, and I think it's really interesting to see this, that we can fund of this way really sustainable projects, which are quality, aesthetical quality very high, and also very innovative in a way we haven't thought before. Then, the last point before we can get into the beer. An issue is also that we are formulating our projects in a wrong way. I always, it's the question about theme-based or specialist development. We are coming from a situation where we perfectionized the way how we design buildings. We have huge teams. We have structural engineer, architects. We have all these different specialists. And they call it teamwork. Do you know teamwork? Yeah? Everybody is doing what is right for him. And then we solve the problems, and we ask BIM for this, the stupidest software ever, because it can just show you what's the problem and not where the solutions are. So that the BIM shows exactly the issues we have in working in our project. It's all separated. We are a specialized process, and every specialist looks that he fits perfectly what he needs to do. And the query of the landscape architect and architect is that on the end it looks still like something good. Now we are in the situation that this is not working anymore side by side. We have to overlay things. We have to verhandeln. We have to negotiate solutions. And that needs the knowledge of the specialist and not the norm-based specialists. And I have some images I want to share with you. This is how I learn right now. We try to find solutions. Every specialist is trying to help to reach a goal, but he's still bound to his norms, standards, and he has no way that he can come and figure out together a solution. And I think we should go in this way, that we formulate not separate goals, we should formulate project goals. We have a little project in Bahnhofsplatz, train station plaza, and in the beginning they build up, they asked traffic engineer to lay out the plan. And I can tell you, it was asphalt poor. Because of the buses, they have no issue, they have no chance that there's a tree on it. And then, of course, it became a heat island, and the community said, the authority said it's not okay. And they said, you need to work together. And they mixed us together. And on the beginning, the structural engineer, the traffic engineer said, you know, I can show you the Schleppkurve. There's no way of design. And we started to change this. We said, okay, let's ask for a bus driver, the worst, you know, the ones who has some notches on the bus. We asked for them, and then we tried we painted some trees on the floor and let them drive. And on the end, actually, we planted several trees, around over 20 trees on this plaza. And the traffic engineer came to us and told me, you know, this have nothing to do with good traffic engineering. And I said, why? And he said, you know, no norms anymore. I said, but the buses can turn. I'm sorry that they don't fit to the Schleppkurve. And I think this is the difference. When we think in Schleppkurven, we can't find solution. We actually should think in a project we should solve an issue, a topic we need to solve. And this is something I want to end with. Responsibility for me and our office means that we have to design with values, and no matter if it's asked or not. I'm very thankful for your time, and I hope the beer is still cold. Thank you.
I don't know. It works. Yeah. Well, thank you, Daniel, for this very enthusiastic lecture about your values and your projects you shared with us. Okay, there's a question. If you use the microphone, everybody can hear you in the stream as well.
Sabine Desovic, D&D Landscape Architecture. I want to have the name of your insurance company. Can you say something about this?
Okay. Can I ask you, what's your size? Small. So you're not in the norm. You're not in the norm. Okay. And you're still a landscape architect? Okay. Even you're not in norm as a woman. Okay. You know, I think we need to think about these norms. The norms say, what if you count all the women in here, and then you can find how big they should be, or tall they should be. But it doesn't say anything if you are a good landscape architect or not. So a norm always defines a best part, sequence of how something should work. If you don't build things, or if you build things out of this norm, it just says you need to make sure that it works. Norms are not Gesetze, laws. How can you find this out? Why are norms not laws? If you park your car wrong, and you get a ticket, you can, by public, figure out how much is your fine. It's true. So this is a law. You're not allowed to park, and you can find online in public for free if it's allowed or not. Can you get the norms for free? No. This is a private community and not a law community. So when it's not usually by public, it's not a law. When we do contract and we said it has to be in the thinking of these norms, then it becomes a contract, it becomes a law. But it needs the definition that you're building with these law norms. We are actually negotiate this. We say we build in the sense of functional descriptions. So we make sure that the bus can turn, but we never say we use it the norm of standards SNBS and or SSVS. So we don't need the insurance because it's done by the negotiation of the contract. We have, of course, insurance, and we were involved with them, and they're totally okay with it.
So the name is still missing.
AXA. It's called AXA. Are you Norm? Size?
I don't know the norm of.
You don't even know this. Okay.
It's not public.
Okay.
So I have a question about the more of the recycling bit of this talk, and I was wondering because you showed numbers also, like I think it was 1/3 of the CO2 emissions for this one project, and for this project, is there in these numbers is like the abriss from the other projects? And I think if you talk about recycling, there's always this like there's a cycle and there's a product and you recycle it and there's a lot of energy then going in there, so there's not really a cycle. And what do you have a comment about this? Is this a problem or is this just like a stupid thing of me? And about the cursor, I was feeling stupid a little bit in the lecture because the last lectures were so much about imagery and yours wasn't a lot about imagery. So it was unnecessary.
Your question is that what the situation with recycling and reuse. That's the first question. I wouldn't say that the one is the good and the other one is not the good. If you do the LCAs, of course, the reuse is a lot better because you don't need energy to transform it to a different gravel size or whatever. But in the case that we still need concrete, for example, I think there is actually a good way that we go further on to recycle stuff, that we can use recycling better, because we have no solution in reuse for cages. There is none of this, so we need concrete or more stones. So I think it's not good and bad. It's a together. We need to figure out how we can use which material in which process best.
May I ask perhaps a question as well? You were saying that you were emphasizing a lot on the processes, like the design processes, the project processes, the building, and also the competition even. But you also mentioned that it is not about only calculating the amount of material you need and everything, but it is also about aesthetics. And in the first project you showed, you said you would do things differently, and I had the impression that that was somehow related to that last issue of aesthetics. Perhaps you could explain what you think should be improved.
Yeah, it's. I think in this project you can really see the reuse process. When you are on the plaza, you can see the rules, you can see the diversity of the materials, and also that this is kind of an accident. Accident in a way that it happens, and we knew that it's going to happen. I think the aesthetics in our profession ask also for a design approach, and I think even we work with this unknown future, we should generate parameters for a design approach. So it shouldn't, a building shouldn't look like a bundle of parameters. When you are there in a building, it should look like a good building, clear, good spaces, and not like a parametric bundle.
So you think the rules are too obvious in the first project you showed? Is that what you're aiming at?
Yes, and or we missed the rules of aesthetics. Okay. And that's something what we design also in the future project, that we said we need parameters for aesthetic reasons.
That's a challenge.
It is.
Okay, I think
Oh.
there's one more question.
Thank you, Daniel. This was very inspiring. I just wonder if you have the feeling that this kind of approach also could bring more as a mood and courage to the whole society also a little bit, like not to be fear of everything. I can fall down and I just call my lawyer and blah blah blah.
Are you doing things like this in Austria? Do you have money for lawyers? Okay. Yeah, I think so that. Yeah, I think so. There's another value to the existing things and also to the materials because it becomes more important. I read from a French developer who bought many dumps, waste like Gruben, Bauschuttgruben. They bought a lot of them because he said, I just wait 100 years and I'm gonna be rich. And I think this shows a smart idea. I hope he's gonna be rich. I really hope that for him and also for us. And I think that brings the waste to a new stage. We don't think anymore in waste. We will learn that this waste is very important for us. As Lily said, we changed this thought in the last 80 years. Before, when you look at farmers' building, they are like from older buildings, they create new ones. This is nothing new. And I think this value that we know that this resource are really a future part of a future ability that we need to bring to the society.
Thank you. So I would like to conclude that there's a lot of challenges out there still, but I do think, and I'm very grateful for your examples, because I think one of the necessities is to convince everybody involved in construction and building and designing processes, and that's a huge thing, and good examples are one way to probably get there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thanks for
being
coming.
here, and also the ones that were there.